Okay, we're going to go ahead and start for today, and we thank you all for coming. We know it's a beautiful day outside, and everyone would like to be outside enjoying their gardens or their flowers or whatever they'd be doing. But today we're doing our second program in our series from our exhibit, our quarterly exhibit titled I Do. It's just hosted by Jenna Mitchelson. And today's program will be about hosting within the wedding industry. And we are just so glad to have her here. She's done a beautiful job. If you haven't had time to see the exhibit, you're welcome after the program to go back and view it. It's just outstanding. You would just really love to see all of the old wedding photos and wedding dresses and how things happened years ago in the wedding industry. So well, I'm going to turn this over to Jenna, and she will start the program today of hosting within the wedding industry.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming, and thank you, Phyllis, for that warm introduction. I am a little backstory. I'm from Girard. I grew up in the area. For those of you who don't know and haven't been here, and I started doing event planning on the side about 2 or 3 years ago, and now this last year I went full time. I love all things wedding. I love to see everything as far as a wedding coming together and just the history of how weddings used to be and how they are now, and just making it a day come together for my couples. And I do other events other than weddings as well, but I really do enjoy weddings the most. So today we are going to start with talking about what we talked about a little bit last time, just so an overview. At our first program, we covered entertainment and traditions over the years, including chivalries, music, dancing, and just the simplicity of weddings back then, and how there was cake punch, maybe a ceremony, maybe you just went to the courthouse and got married and went on with your day. Everything was way more simple then. Over the years, though, things have evolved, and there are way more vendors involved in the planning process of the day. So you'll have photographer, videographer, DJ, all of the main vendors for the day. But the first topic of today with hosting is our favorite, most people's favorite part about going to a wedding. Does anyone know any? The food. Yeah, there we go. The food. The food. So people will go for the food. So they go for the bride and groom, obviously, too. But that's just a big part of it is the food. So obviously back then they didn't have dinners unless it was just small, intimate dinners with their family or just cake and punch. And sometimes there was no reception at all. And today, caterers it's changed immensely. So I'm going to expand on the changes there for you. So wedding catering underwent significant changes driven by social attitudes, technological advancements, and after the World War II era, you saw a rise in mass-produced foods, which made it easier for people to cater bigger parties, and for the middle class, a little bit less expensive. So you saw more and more big receptions and serving buffet style, some plated, but that kind of started there. And then it became more informal, which led to like new catering traditions such as buffet style, food stations, and casual outdoor receptions. So you can kind of see it changing through the years with where people did their weddings, like what their venues were, and then more venues started to be built. But back then, there were limited venues. There were church halls, hotels, sometimes hotels. Does anyone know of a few hotels here in town that where people had weddings at? Does anyone know? The Stowell, yeah. Sorry. The Holiday Inn, yep. Yep. The Best Hotel, yep. Those are 3. And then those are 3 of the big ones I've heard. But other than that, I've heard church halls. For your church, you just went over and had dinner at your church hall. So I know one of my friends had their wedding in Girard at the hall there. Afterwards, the reception was in the hall. So they still do that today as well. But there are other venues in town and just all over as far as like building a place to have a big space for people to host an event. So that is there. So that's our first topic is catering. As you saw when you walked in, you saw the not charcuterie, that one's a dessert bar. So dessert bars today are a big thing. Instead of just cake, sometimes people do cupcakes. Seen a little bit of everything. I've even seen like ice cream trucks pull up to the reception And that's something kind of fun and different that not everyone sees, but ice cream trucks and just all kinds of little things, which is neat just to see the variation of foods that are served there for this. Prior to the ceremony, there's a thing called cocktail hour. That's my favorite part, honestly. The cocktail hour. I don't know why, but it is. Just it's just the people getting to walk around and see everything and chat and have the drinks and the charcuterie. I've seen that. I've also seen snack bars as far as just like Chex Mix, M&Ms, like just all kinds of little things for people to snack on while they're drinking before dinner, because people are hungry and they come for the food. So, they come for that. But that's the first part. So topic 2 is transportation. As there became more venues, people needed to get more places, whether they're further out or there's other sorts of transportation that have evolved too. Back then, I know a lot of people just drove themselves, sometimes walked if they were close, or they have a getaway car at the end of the night, usually some kind of vintage cool vehicle where they tie cans to the back and head on out that way. But that's the old ways. Today, there are private shuttles, there's Ubers, there's taxis, party buses for the bridal party. Sometimes they'll all hop on that so they don't all have to drive, and they can spend time together between ceremony and reception, sometimes after and sometimes even before. So there's a lot of different ways to get around now, which is nice, but that's my favorite part, is probably that area. So today, let's see, sorry, I read. Traditional getaway cars, I think that's really cool, and I've actually seen that starting to retrend. So people are starting to do the getaway car at the end of the night and drive off on a cool vehicle. And I actually have someone that I've talked to recently, Andrew over here. He has some cool cars that he might want to drive. So if you know anyone needing a neat car to drive away at the end of the night, he's your guy. So I'm volunteering you because you want to. That, and then, okay. So yeah, transportation. How did anyone have a different way that they got home or that they've seen other than just what I've talked about today? Is that how you all drove home at your end of your night, or do you have anything neat that you in transportation at the end of the evening?
Well, we had our own car, my own truck.
Okay.
But the guests, while we were inside at the reception, they all decorated the truck with balloons and.
They filled it with things.
Yeah.
Sometimes they put Lindbergh cheese in.
Cheese?
And it was
Lindbergh cheese would smell.
Oh.
Sorry, the engine.
Oh man.
And as we drove off, the lights from the cars behind us hit on the balloons, and I kept thinking I was getting pulled over.
That's funny. That's amazing. Well, that is good. I love seeing those traditions. Like I've knew the cans, but I've never heard of cheese. That's kind of gross, but.
Well, they did that too. I mean, they did the whole bit.
Yeah, that's cool.
But
Very neat.
it happened.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Oh, I was in a wedding in Kansas City when we lived there, and I thought it was unique because the bride and groom actually they had a horse and carriage
Yeah.
and take them from the church to the reception.
Yeah. I've seen that. They do something similar. I feel like I've seen that with a few Indian weddings too. They have a carriage of some sort that they pull, which is neat. I did my first Indian wedding this past year, and it was really interesting, just like the color schemes and the traditions that they did through the ceremony. It was very different than a traditional wedding. I mean, they just did the red and gold, but then they had a really neat, it's not an arbor, there's a name for it, it starts with a B, I'm blanking, but it's like a square shaped arbor that they have like a stage in the middle, and that was all like purple and pink florals, and only the guys could actually touch it. So the girls didn't decorate it, the guys touch it, like, and they decorate it through the day, which I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like usually the girls are the decorators, but the guys were the only ones allowed to touch the arbor to get it together for the day. So that
The Indians from India.
in India, yep, Indian. That's a tradition, is they decorate that arbor for the ceremony, where it's like a very spiritual place where they get married, and that's where the ceremony is held, and that's only the guys can decorate it. So that was something interesting I learned in that wedding, and I'm always learning something new. Each wedding I do, I think it's really neat because you pick up on something different at each one and see something different which makes the industry really fun just because it's always changing, as everything is. But that was
And
that.
then they saran wrapped my truck. All around.
All around.
I don't know, they were supposed to prank you on your.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. I think my aunt, that happened to my aunt too. My aunt, that was like the last wedding I had seen in a long time that they actually did the cans and the saran wrap. My aunt, like, they had that at their wedding in, I think that was 2008. So it's been a while. But yeah, that was my aunt's wedding.
We had a wedding at our church that was a international student. She was from China, and it was all in red.
Oh,
And red.
wow, that's cool.
Red is good luck.
Yeah, yep, I heard that red is good luck. So red is, but, and then now today, like the hotels in this area were kind of where people would have, they would even have their weddings there, they would stay there. And today they're Airbnbs, VRBOs, or different places that people can stay other than hotels. So we're gonna go into where people stayed as far as accommodations. And we do, I don't know if you've heard of wedding blocks, but you can block so many rooms at a hotel for a wedding party. And a lot of times the girls will stay the night before, whereas before that wasn't as common for all the girls in the bridal party to stay together before. But the next day is a long day for the girls. If you've seen a wedding now, it takes hours to get ready, like 6 hours maybe, I think. Depending on how big your bridal party is. But you'll start getting ready at 8 a.m. for hair and makeup, and it's a long day, so people are exhausted by the end of the night. And I think wedding receptions used to last a little bit longer mid-century, like midnight, and people didn't go out to the bars as much afterwards. They were there for the celebration the whole night. And so there was just wedding, reception, and then it went till midnight. And now it's cutting back to 10 because people are so tired. And they're like, let's just cut it short because they're tired and they want to go home. So,
Well, they say till midnight because there's usually a dance.
yep, for the dance,
That
that's big dance with all. Did you guys have bands?
We did back in the
Bands.
day. It was all live bands.
Yep. The wedding I was at last night was bands, so I think bands are kind of retrending as far as doing a different kind of entertainment for music for people, and that's something I enjoy the bands. I think it's really fun. I had a DJ, but I've been to several with bands, and they're kind of the MC of the night, so they are the ones that control the room and the atmosphere and how everything goes there. And then because of all of these changes, our last topic is going to be event planners, coordination, and venue management. So these are all different things within the wedding industry, and people can kind of confuse them or combine them into one thing and think it's all one thing. They are separate things as far as careers. Since there are very many venues, running a venue is not just building a venue for all these people to have the space. It's taking out the trash, making sure the bathrooms are clean, touring with your couple. Sometimes they help with layout as far as like how you want your table set up and your chairs, because they'll have that set up for you. And then the planners and coordinators, they kind of fall hand in hand. Some people just hire you for a day of coordination to follow their timeline. So they'll give you a timeline, and usually you look over it, see if there's anything that needs changed, and communicate with vendors. So communicating with the vendors is a big part of it, that people that are unsure when they go to plan a wedding, that it's nice to have a coordinator, someone that can talk to those vendors when they arrive or prior to if they need any changes, and the day for like arrival time and setup. So that's my job. That's what I do. I'm a coordinator and an event planner. So I have recently started doing more of the planning portion instead of just showing up on the day of. And so hiring out the florist, the caterer, giving them recommendations on a preferred vendor list, different things for people to be able to see what they, like if they have color schemes or a certain food that they love, I can be like, oh, these are great Italian eateries in town. So like, I know Josie's isn't here anymore, but Josie's, Palooka's, different food places in town, and then fried chicken places. There's several. That's a staple in the Midwest area. If you aren't familiar, you should go eat some fried chicken. That's a good. So I worked at Chicken Annie's too back in the day. So we actually saw some wedding catering. Like we did some big parties, and some people actually do transport it. We've done a few in Kansas City, but it's fresh and better when it's close. So a lot of people will do it in this area. So I know a lot of the chicken places will do that if you need it for an event. So, does anyone have any questions about like the planning process before a wedding day? Like what goes into the pre-planning for planning a wedding today?
So how long do people plan ahead on weddings nowadays?
Yeah. So I feel the typical like middle range is about a year out. So like 12 months of engagement is I've seen and I've done weddings within a couple of months. I had a wedding, they got engaged the first week of August, and I did a wedding September 30th. So it's doable. It's just very stressful and finding vendors that are available because some vendors book out several, like even a year and a half in advance. So I have a couple of 2025 weddings already, which is very interesting. I didn't realize when I went to plan a wedding that it would take that long, or that our venue was already booked some of those days. Because I think we had a 15-month engagement for my wedding. So.
I had a solution for that. We got married on Friday the 13th of August. No problem.
Love that. I love that. I love that. Yeah, I love that. Hey, it's not bad. I think 13 is a lucky number. I like that number. So, yeah.
I would bet that when you got married, you didn't have all these people helping plan the wedding. did you?
No, in fact, we had a regular reception there at the church, was taking that. But after the family, which everybody was invited to, it was actually held, not in a venue, it was held in my dad's machine shed. My mom and dad had built a machine shed, and I said, that's where I wanted the party. And so we had it out in the machine shed. So he moved everything out except his combine and cleaned the shed and set up tables and chairs. And I think they made all the food, I believe.
Yeah, that's very cool.
But that was in 71, so
Yeah,
it was
that's
another
very cool.
time.
One of my friends actually got married in December, and they cleared out her dad's pole barn, and they did it there, and it was very simple. It was in western Kansas. It was a long drive, but I was like, we pulled up, and I was like, is this it? Are we in the right spot? Because it didn't have signage. It was our families, and it was really, it comes together. It's really whatever you want your wedding to be, and I think that's such a special part, is like what if you want it in an intimate spot because this is where your family got married, or like it has like meaning to you. I think that's neat. So does anyone?
If you survey it and everybody tell us what their wedding day was like, you know, how they did it would be interesting, just like hers.
Yeah. Where did you get married?
Well, we got married at St. Bridget's in Scammon,
Okay.
and we had the reception across the hall,
Okay.
and it was so hot, and the air conditioners could hardly handle.
There was no air
Well,
conditioning.
there was no air conditioning in the church,
Okay.
and his brother fainted.
Oh.
About 3/4 of the way through the ceremony, he got up and
Oh. God. Just went down.
And he was an attendant at the wedding. It wasn't
Yeah,
a
he was the
guest.
best
He
man.
was the best man.
Best man.
he was 15 going on 16, and he vowed afterwards, if I ever get married, it's not gonna be in the summer.
Yeah. Did it take him a while to get back up, or was he?
Well, they caught him before he went clear to the
Ground.
ground, but, anyway, he got married in October. But
Yeah.
we went across the hall, and they had window air conditioners at that time,
Wow.
at the hall. And, so it was a real hot July the 2nd day.
Yeah. Wow. July weddings are hot.
And then we came to Pittsburgh, and the family had a family dinner at the, Stillwell Hotel in their dining area,
Yeah.
catered by Otto's Cafe.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah.
So that's kind of a historic tie with Otto's Cafe and
Stillwell. Very neat.
which has been remodeled since, and where we had our dinner now, it's a really nice.
Yeah, a little space. I've been in there. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
The tile and everything is neat.
So
Still
I
there.
donated my wedding gown to the historic collection at Pitt State in the home economics facts department.
Very
And I
cool.
said, it has a lot of, because we bought my gown at Seymour's
Yeah.
in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. At our next program, that's Seymour's. We'll keep that in my mind because our next program we will be talking about wedding attire. So we're gonna have a little fashion show here, and we'll discuss the places people used to buy their dresses and how dress buying goes now, because there's a lot of designers and things like that. I also, fun fact, worked in a bridal store for 4 years, so I kind of have some background and insight on telling you how that process is now.
They were next to Little's.
Little's on Broadway.
And a lot of gowns were bought at Seymour's.
Very
A
cool.
lot.
Seymour's. I have not
So
heard
that's
that.
one main spot.
Yeah,
for
I like it. I've heard Littles and Seymour's, but it's a new one, so I'll keep that in my back pocket. Does anyone else have a question about planning or about any of the topics covered today?
Jenna, talk about, you use the word vendors a lot.
Yeah.
Tell them about who all the
Yeah.
vendors are.
Yeah.
Because there's,
And actually, the reason why people need a wedding
Coordinator.
is because you don't wanna deal with all those vendors on your wedding day. So
Yes.
give a list of how many
Yeah.
vendors people
Yeah.
have
So
on days.
there can be up to 10 or more vendors just in one day, just arriving and doing different parts. And something, I actually have a wedding planning book I'll even show you. So there's books, really big books of how to do weddings and just typical weddings and how elaborate they are in here. And it talks about vendors and a way to make a wedding day come together. So the best piece of advice in this book that I found is, as a vendor, you swim in your own lane. So you all have your own job. So there's a caterer, there's a photographer, there's a videographer, DJ or band, hair and makeup, the venue management, dessert maker, balloon arches, bounce houses, photo booths. You see so many different vendors just depending on what people want for their weddings. So instead of like the mom or aunt or the bride having to be like, oh, did they show up or not, hiring someone to be appointed to those people through the day as they arrive, and just the pre-planning process leading up to that day. So beforehand, usually we'll do like a 90 and a 30-day meeting, just kind of checking in to make sure that they have everything. Sometimes venues require venue insurance, like additional venue insurance. And so a wedding I have coming up, each vendor has to have, so each photographer, each DJ, anyone that's coming and being a part of that day has to have their own insurance to cover it. So something I do prior to is help to make sure that they collect that and send that to the venue management to make sure that everyone's covered and able to do their duty that day without any stresses, and making sure that they're covered and it doesn't fall on the bride or groom during their day or the venue. So
do you ever have a venue not show up?
a vendor, I have not yet, but you always have to have a backup plan. So that's something that end up like having me for is your catering doesn't show up. What do you do? Oh, we have to order pizza for 400. So like you have to have like, what are we going to do in that situation? I like to work with preferred vendors, like, and that's what I usually do. If I've worked with them before and I feel that they do a great job and that they're reliable vendors, then having that preferred vendor list is really crucial, just to make sure your day falls together the way it should. So, yeah. Does anyone else have a question?
You mentioned a party bus. Do they have that in this area?
They actually do. There is a 4-star limo. It's a place, and then there's Yeti Expeditions in Joplin, and then there's some people that will travel from Kansas City and Springfield, but it's usually a travel fee, so you're accounting for their time there and back. So it's a little bit more pricey. So there's those, and then I know that they also have a shuttle, a few shuttles. I don't know what the word is. Private shuttles in Springfield that will come here as well. So.
All this adds cost to what
Yes.
we did.
Yes.
So what is our price range here
Yeah.
from like us with no caterer
Yes.
to today?
Yeah, it can be a lot. So just if you, I've seen people still do family style meals where they did like a crawfish boil or, potluck sort of dinner. So it's really whatever you want to do. So if I have a couple that comes to me and they say, this is our budget and this is how many people we have coming, we're like, okay, per plate, this is this many people plus service. So we kind of look for vendors or catering companies that will fall within that price range. I've actually seen Hy-Vee in Kansas City cater quite a bit, I was surprised, but it makes sense because it's a grocery store. Also, Ron's IGA in town does do some catering, and I didn't realize they did as much till recently. They'll do charcuterie, they'll do packed lunches for, on the bus for students and between games and then actual wedding day. And cost-wise, you can go lower if you're doing something to stay there. But if you're wanting something that's a plated meal with, salmon and fish or different kinds of fishes and chicken, pork, beef, all those things, you can get a little bit more pricey depending on what kind of foods you pick for that day. Yeah, so price range wise, if you're wanting numbers, like it can range anywhere from $10 a plate to I've seen $40. So it just depends on what price
For the
range.
entire wedding, all your vendors put
Oh,
together.
all of the vendors put together. So
probably
average,
thousands of dollars.
yeah, average cost for a wedding today, like US wide, world, like US area, is about 28,000. I've seen, like, that's the middle cost. So you can do it for less and you can do it for more. It's just depending on how many guests you invite. But that's like the rural to city. You know, it's not just like if you're going to Kansas City, you're going to spend 50,000 or more. Like that's kind of if you have 200 plus people. But if you do something small with 50 people, that's going to change things. But average wedding guest count I've seen is probably around 150 to 250. So that's kind of reception wise there.
So Jenna, have the norms changed of like who pays for the wedding? You know, traditionally, the
Yes.
groom's family did the rehearsal dinner
Yes.
on the night before and the bride's family did the wedding, but what things have changed in terms of, you know, because again, now you've got probably
Yeah.
more alcohol at a reception
Yeah.
if they choose. Then you've got rehearsal dinner, I'm sure the options are brought. What about who pays for it?
Yeah. So because things have got more expensive, it really depends on the couple's financial situation. But it's not required to fall on someone. Etiquette, so people try to follow as far as like the bride's family paying for what they can. But I've seen it that people split it. It's still usually groom's family is in charge of rehearsal, bride's family is in charge of wedding. But the wedding people usually will split those expenses upon themselves as a couple and their parents. I see more of that today just because of how expensive things have become to kind of equal that out. So I know everyone kind of pays differently. It's really just depending on the family and your financials and what you want to do for your wedding. So it does depend. I've seen a little bit of everything. I've seen bride's family pay for all things and groom's family pay for, you know, what they can. But usually etiquette wise, tuxes and fall on, like right now, this is what I'm seeing is tuxes are the groom's responsibility, bridesmaids are the brides. Like they take care of their people if you ask them to be in your wedding. I've seen a lot of that. But I've also seen bridesmaids pay for their own dresses now to be in weddings, which I think is something different that not everyone does. So they'll say, here's a color swatch, go find a dress this color. So I've seen a little bit of mixed match monochromatic weddings, like different textures, like chiffons and satins of different shades of greens or blues. Different things. So that's something different in the buying your own bridal party's attire too.
They rent their dresses a lot of times too.
Yeah, I've seen some renting. It's hard to find places actually that will rent because people don't necessarily, if they alter the dress, so like length of them or straps or different things, then it's hard for someone else to rewear it. So I have seen less of the renting, but I have heard of people doing that too.
And there's a lot more buying dresses online
Yes.
for bridesmaids than
Yes.
back in our day where you went to the
Got
bridal
fitted.
store and
Yes.
got fitted. And
Yes, there are several websites that ship pretty quick. So like Azazi, Revelry, there's a whole bunch of different names out there, and they can come quick, and you can get samples sometimes very quickly to try on different sizes or colors, and then order them and get them usually within a couple of months, sometimes even quicker. So that's neat.
For people who want a wedding gown and have no money,
Yes,
no money.
yes.
At the thrift store in Erie, right now, we have a beautiful wedding gown that was brought in and satin decoration on it. And somebody could come in if they wanted it,
Yeah,
and they could have it for $20 probably.
yeah.
They have them at, I've been in Salvation Army recently, they have some wedding gowns in Salvation Army.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with
No,
getting a good dress.
No.
At a good price.
no, I agree with that completely. So we had summer sales at the bridal store I worked at, and that was just, so people can buy off the rack in there, but it's usually like last year's seasons and the years before, they just start marking them down because new dresses have to come in and we have to get some out. So I like to be able to provide that. Like I know whenever we have people come in, I said, what's your budget? And we kind of tried to work with them to see what they could find within their price ranges. So
When my granddaughter got married in Wichita several years ago, so the immediate family was in the church, in the chapel, and my daughter's friend lined up a drive-by shower. They set a table outside the church.
I love that.
And when the bride and groom stood right outside after they got married, and the cars drove by, they congratulated drop their gift card.
I love that. Yeah. I love that. I've seen someone do that. They did that for a baby shower for my friend during that. But that, I think that was so smart, like how we had to improvise during COVID.
And they all got, and then the groom's uncle had a pecan farm outpost in the suburbs of Wichita. So the uncles mowed the grass and everything, and they set up a white tent, and then they had a dinner catered just for the family and,
Yeah,
photographer and
that's very neat.
people. So
Yeah. No, I remember.
we got some different memories.
Yeah.
Our sister that had the big church wedding.
Yeah, no, I completely get that. I saw a lot of backyard weddings that year, and like even afterwards, it kind of started to trend because people just loved that they got married like in their own backyard and the intimateness of that. I had a wedding even last summer that decided to do that because they just loved their backyard and they spent a ton of time making it pretty, putting flowers and flower pots and different things back there. But I got married in 2021, so I do know that game, and we wore masks. Like the photos are going to be so different than what people look back at those pictures of the masks, because my church was very strict on we had to wear a mask for the entire ceremony, and even after pictures, she was like, okay, put them right back on, like we could take them off for a photo. But like bride and groom were the only ones allowed to not wear them. But like our bridal party walking down, it's funny because you started to read people's eyes, like if they were smiling or not. Like and babies, I feel that's interesting, is babies, whenever they're born, like during that era, they can read the eyes. Like they knew you were smiling even with the mask on, because that's just very interesting to me that they knew. So that's kind of.
There's a wedding venue across the street from where we live in Erie at the Neosho County Fairgrounds, and it's called the Neosho Valley Event Center. And we've had several weddings where they have come in and decorated the show barn, where the livestock is judged during the fair. They've decorated it with nylon tulle and made a backdrop, and then they have a white, instead of down the aisle of the church, from where they get dressed at the event center over to the show arena.
Oh, cool.
And they sit on bales of hay.
That's cool. Yeah.
And there have been 4 or 5 like that since they have that event center. And then they just come back, and the event center is not just a 4-H building. That's why they call it the event center.
Yeah.
And they even have ambient lighting,
Okay.
so they can make it nice for the dancing.
Yeah, so the
And
mood.
they have a USDA approved kitchen, and there are caterers who fix the meal there
Wow.
and serve it.
Wow. That's
So
neat.
there's one.
There's another place. I love that. That's the fun part, is I'm always coming across a new place that I've never been to, because there's more coming about, and then even old ones being restored. I don't know if you've been to the Gay Parita in Corona, but that area, that's like one that was old and it's coming back and using as an event hall and a dinner space. And
I have not been to the Wild Iris, but that's where I went to grade school.
yes, the Wild Iris, the old Rock and K. I think someone else has, someone has actually took over that. So it was the Wild Iris, and someone has recently bought it, and they're going to keep the name as the Old Rock and K, is what the name of it will be now. So I know she's in that process of trying to get that up and going, and so I think she is already booking. So if you are someone that needs a wedding and they want to do something out here or an event, it's out this way. So you can talk to me and I'll give you her information.
Are there any public places around here, in California where I'm from?
Yeah.
Right there in Redondo Beach, Veterans Park is there, and my wife and I were married there 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's sort of a tradition to get married at Veterans Park. It's
Okay.
right next to the beach, it's right there and next to the pier,
Uh-huh.
and it's just a real nice setting. I actually have a watercolor, one of my friends did, it says Veterans Park, and it shows everything, the pier and all that, and it says eat, drink, and get married.
That is cool. No, that I don't. In this area, I mean, people will do it more on their family's lands or like somewhere that is intimate. I don't know that there's necessarily a spot that people do a ton. Like, as this is where we go. I mean, I think on the coast you probably have a little bit more options as far as the aesthetic, and like and things like to open areas for people to be in. I've seen people get married at like some parks, or different areas, like. I don't know, I've seen some park, like in the gazebo weddings, things like that. But there's not really like one known spot that I know of. So if someone else knows of somewhere, let me know. But that I know of that's like a staple place that this is the place to
I
go.
think there's any number of,
Yeah.
and most cities probably have them, public parks where
Yeah,
this is a place where people who don't wanna spend $26,000
yeah,
on a wedding
yeah,
go and get married.
yeah. Yeah, that is true. I'm not sure on that. I'll have to look a little bit, but I know mostly people's families' lands that they want to go a cheaper route, that they'll just get married in a backyard or a farm or farmland and kind of bring out chairs and rent chairs and or just some tables and things like that, cocktail style. So, yeah.
I'm sure you,
When my daughter got married, they got married, Panama Beach, Florida,
Okay.
and they called a planner down there who arranged for the minister
Yeah.
and place and some small decorations. And I just wonder, has that happened to you yet? Cause I was thinking maybe there's two students, former students at PSU.
Yeah.
Who wanted to get married.
Like a destination. So I have had people like interested in going and doing a destination wedding somewhere else, and a lot of times those venues or resorts or wherever, like a hotel, will have someone that knows the space better. So like a lot of places will have that place, and I would be comfortable doing it. I haven't had one yet, but it would be something that I would travel to with the bride and groom, see the space if they really wanted me to be the coordinator for that event and see their space, what they're wanting. But and it would be a lot of research or asking another person that does what I do in that area who they recommend. So it would be kind of going through someone that does what I do to do the exact same thing. So I felt comfortable doing it, and they really wanted me, and they were dead set. They're like, we want you to do it. Then I would have to be doing a lot of research prior to find those people that they need in that area, or they'd be paying for people here to go with them. So like, I know some photographers that will go to Colorado, Florida, all the places to take pictures, but there's like the extra cost of paying for their flight or their stay. So it does get a little bit more pricey doing that for your couple. So a lot of times I will honestly just, if they have one there, I tell them, like, as much as I would love to do the wedding, I think that they probably have a better expertise at this specific venue because they've been there, they've done weddings, they've worked with a lot of people there. So I've done some decor that went with mom and dad in the car to Florida. For some like cake stands and things like that that they wanted to use. So that's the extent that I went to Florida with. So.
so is there any kind of network for all of you who coordinate? I mean,
Yeah, so there are some seminars in Kansas City that you can go to just for like all vendors that like fall within the wedding industry. And there's actually like the Best of Kansas City, or they do that here too, like Met Bride, but they have all the vendors that kind of get nominated through the years as far as like best coordinator of the year and like rookie of the year, things like that. So there's actually a big awards thing at the beginning of each year for vendors, which is kind of cool, and your clients can nominate you, different things like that. So it is a big network. You meet a lot of people and a lot of different ways to do things, which is nice because you can kind of spin ideas off of each other. And we don't really look at it like, we don't like to look at each other as competition, like, and we can help each other because there's always a wedding, so there's always an event. So we look at each other more as, let's do this as a team, and like, how can we help each other? So it's nice when you find those vendors that are able to work with you and like kind of get the whole picture. We're trying to do this make our clients the best day ever. So yeah.
I'm curious, what are some of the latest trends in wedding cakes? Because weddings
Yeah.
have changed.
Yes.
I mean, it used to, when I got married, there was no choice.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it was very much the same, and I think there are a lot of different, things going on with wedding cakes.
Yeah.
That aren't even cakes anymore.
Yeah. So cakes, I've seen like if people want like a big, statement piece, I've seen the 3+ tiered cakes. They'll walk in and cut the cake. Last night's was 5-tiered. So last night's wedding was a 5-tiered white iced cake, and then they had 2 different flavors throughout the cake. They had Italian wedding and strawberry. So it's kind of on what the couple, like their favorite cake. Sometimes they'll add that in there. And then they'll also do some other things, sometimes over the side, like cupcakes, just because they're easier grab and go options. And then dessert bars. I did a dessert bar. I've seen like cake pops, chocolate covered strawberries, frosted cookies. Something I've seen that's neat that my sister wants to do and that someone else recently did, was a frosted cheesecake. So it was a cheesecake, but it was frosted because she doesn't like cake, but she wants cheesecake. So you see a whole bunch of different things. It's really crazy how many different options there are for dessert. So I'm not a big cake person.
Cheesecake, we were at a wedding it looks just like
Yeah.
a wedding, a single layer wedding cake, and it really threw you because you're expecting wedding cake and you're getting this
Cheese.
frosted cheesecake.
Yeah. Yeah. But it looks beautiful. Looks just like a cake and a frosted cheesecake. I didn't never hear that until that's a newer one for me. Yes. Okay. We got room for maybe one or two more questions, and then if you want to grab some cake and punch.
I don't remember what you're talking about next time, Jenna, but I know one of the things they might be interested that has changed significantly are like bachelor parties and
Oh, yeah.
bachelorettes.
Okay, I'll touch on that. That's a fun
That
one.
might be something.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you could ask how many of them had a bachelor party or bachelorette.
Yeah, so I could kind of include more of that into our attire.
And now they have destinations.
Yeah.
Vegas and New Orleans.
Yeah. So attire for, like, I can include some of that for the attire for bachelorette party, bridal shower for the next one, but I'll also include what people do. So I've seen a lot. I know my sister-in-law is going to one in Mexico this coming week. So like they get a little bit more pricey. Everything's pricier, but I've seen that, or go to the lake. Like people go to the lake, different things like that. But it's usually a group of people, sometimes the bridal party girls or the bachelor, groomsmen. They kind of pick a place that they want to go, and you start the pre-planning. If you have a year to plan, you do have a little bit more time and flexibility with like who can come and how much you have to save to go to these things. But I've seen from the lake, going out in Kansas City, going to wineries. It has changed a lot. I think my mom's like, oh, we didn't do that. We just went, to the bar here in Pittsburgh and had some drinks, So I know they've got a little bit more elaborate as far as where people go and what they do. So, it's whatever you want to do. Again, like I've had people where we just do a day thing. We went and did like a break at like one of those escape rooms in Kansas City, went to dinner. So it's kind of what price range your party is willing to do and what they want to do, but it just depends.
When we were in Ireland, we got on a ferry to go over to the island where Grace O'Malley, the pirate, was buried. And lo and behold, there was a large group of girls there who were the bride didn't know where they were going to go for the party. They planned it, and then they took the bride to be.
Okay.
And they were on this ferry, and they were having a good time, and they had a balloon.
It was an inflatable balloon of a man.
An inflatable balloon of the guy. And I tell you, he got worked over.
Oh, yeah.
And we watched that all the way over to the island.
Oh, yeah. No, there are some silly things. I've seen like the matching T-shirts, like or the groom's face on there. I've even seen the guys do some T-shirts, like a few of them that I went to. The guys were wearing matching T-shirts or different things, which it's less common for the guys to have matching or fun little gag gifts and things like that than the girls. But yeah, we've had those big blow-up floaties and rings and different things and matching T-shirts, or we do little like hangover kits. I don't know if you've heard of those, but you don't always feel great at a bachelorette party, but they have like the ibuprofen, all the little things. So like it gets a little bit more elaborate, and then the backdrop to take photos in and things like that. So
Daughter-in-law is my daughter, going to Mexico, and she had called me yesterday to see if I had a bigger suitcase, because she has to take all the decorations, because once they get there, they have to decorate
yeah,
for
the Airbnb or wherever you're staying. Yeah.
and then have all the little party favorites like you said.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff as well.
So travel.
People are going to be there.
I don't know.
I think like 10.
She's been weddings, and so she's been to
Yeah.
at least 10 destinations.
Yeah. Big thing.
And also, a lot of times, like, maybe you're not in the wedding party, but you're a good friend. Like, she's got a friend who's getting married in Italy, and she can't go to that wedding, obviously, so she feels obligated to go to her wedding, her bachelorette party in Vail. So,
Yeah.
she could be a rich girl if she didn't.
Didn't have so many friends, right? Well, does anyone else have room for one more question? Anyone? Good? If not, we're good. We can wrap it up, and we have refreshments. So.
Okay, I'm back with a few announcements. Oh, is my mic working? Okay. And for those of you who don't know, I'm Phyllis Bittner, and I am one of the trustees here for Miners Hall Museum. And we have a few of our trustees here today. Christy Parrish, you'll notice us in our red vests. And Linda Knoll is here somewhere. I believe she's back there. And Linda Roberts is also here, but I think she's in the office.
No, I haven't seen her. I haven't seen her.
Okay, I believe she's back in the office working. But anyway, I just wanted you to know that our trustees, we're what we call a working board, and we love all of our events. And we are so glad to be able to provide programs and events that you all can come to and enjoy. Some are fun, some are funny, some are educational, some are historic. So we try to give a variety of things, and I want to mention a couple of things coming up. But first, I want to mention when you were talking about weddings, we have had the Franklin Community Park is about a block up the road and on the east side of the street, and we have had several weddings at the park. We now own the park and maintain it. Franklin Community Council and the museum, we merged the corporations. And so we own that park, and we've had several weddings in there.
I've seen
And
one
it's
there.
an open pavilion. There's an archway by our memorial gardens, and then there's a pavilion, and we don't charge anything. And we've had several weddings in the park. So in the spring, it's beautiful there. There's the gardens in bloom, and it's really a lovely place. So we have someone who just wants a small wedding or whatever, and we have a barbecue pit by the pavilion, so they throw the hot dogs or the whatever hamburgers on the grill and have a good time. So
Love that.
that was one thing. And one of our upcoming big events, it's an annual event. This is our second year. It's called Night in New Orleans. Some of you were there last year, and it was sold out fairly quickly. We can seat about 200 people, and it's in a tent out here in the back, and we'll have a Zydeco band. It's $30 a person, and you'll get a shrimp boil dinner, dessert, drinks are included this year with your meal, and then we'll have alcoholic beverages for sale. News will be going out to the members, get first opportunity to buy tickets. So if you are a member, you'll be getting a call or an email, however you've asked to be notified. If you aren't a member, we invite you to become one. We have these little cards up front, and there's a lot of perks that go along with becoming a member, in addition to being first chance at buying tickets. We also have an annual membership dinner that is just wonderful. It's worth the price of your membership. Membership is $25 for an individual, $50 for a couple, and our membership dinner is worth that price. It's a wonderful event. Last year it was in the little coal camp of Arma. This year it's going to be in the little coal camp of Frontenac at Palooka's Event Center. We'd invite you to think about becoming a member, and that is on May 1st. Our night at New Orleans is April 13th, so the next few months we're really busy. We have a lot of events and planning going on. And when Jenna, there's been a lot of talk about wedding today, but I wanted to say to you all, she has her business cards and information back in the exhibit, and it's not just weddings. You do everything, baby showers, any kind of event. Call Jenna if you have some kind of event, whether it's small or large, that she can take care of that, right? Okay.
Yep. I also do rentals, so if you're needing, sorry, I turned this off. I also, can you hear me? Hello? Okay, okay, yeah, we can, okay. I also do rentals, so if you're needing just like backdrops, decor, tableware, things like that, I don't have to necessarily do the event. I have pick up and drop off options as well, if you're just wanting to pick up, set up yourself, and then tear it down, bring it back, or I can do the whole thing. So you have an event of any sort.
Okay, so you're welcome, like I say, back in her exhibit, which is back in that corner. Her business cards are back there, and you're welcome to pick those up and give her a call. Or if you know someone who will be has an event coming up. Just a couple of other general announcements about us. For any of you that have seen the work going on at the intersection, which we know is Gennardi's Corner, but it's 47 and 69. There's been a lot of work going on the last week there, so we have finally, yay. If you look behind you over here, the Dream Big poster, that huge check, we are finally beginning that project. We are going to move that drag line.
Wow.
So they're doing the prep work at this location. They had to dig down, I don't know how many feet. They did a core sample and whatever. They've done all of that. So they're getting that ready. They're creating the parking lot. Next, they'll be going down to the location of the drag line, which is in Cherokee County, and they'll start the dismantling. So he's kind of aiming for April, might swing into May before it's actually moved. But if you follow us on Facebook, if you don't, we invite you to. We try to post daily or every few days updates of what's happening, and we will announce the date of the move because it is going to be a big thing. It will be the largest walking dragline preserve in the entire United States.
Oh, wow.
There are only 2 known page 618s, and one of them is like a parts machine. It's in forest with trees growing up through it. It's probably not salvageable. So we are going to be the only page 618 in the United States. And there are only 4 walking drag lines on the entire North American continent. There are 2 in Canada, and then there'll be the 2, one here and one in ours, and then one in Oregon. So it's going to be a big deal.
Wow.
And it's pretty exciting. So, and in the middle of all this, we were so busy with our big page drag line. Kevin Mitchelson, who is our attorney and has been for 20 years, pro bono, he has provided us with all these services. He was kind enough to step in right after the tornado. Just happened to be on a flight with someone from Mission Clay, and they're talking about things, and Mission Clay mentions they have a small drag line, and Kevin says, well, hey, I know what you can do with that. You know? So we now have a small drag line out back. It's called an Inslee, and the boom is not on it yet. It's there, but they're, like I say, we have the big project going on, so this is just kind of happening as they find time to come and do that. So you're welcome to come out and take a look at that. One other thing, some of you have been here, we've talked about our projector. We've been donated a 7-foot drop-down screen so that when someone is needing to show slides or whatever, rather than using that small TV that none of you can see, we've been given this 7-foot screen, but we are looking for funding for the projector. Some of you have already donated and other people have as well, but we have applied for a grant, which we're pretty hopeful that we will obtain, and then we'll be able to get that installed up here. So that'll be great for programming in the future. So we invite you to come back March the 24th, and that'll be posted on Facebook. If you're a member, you'll get a call or an email about wedding attire then and now. Yeah. And you have to look at the wedding dresses back there. One of them's over 100 years old. It's wrinkled, but everyone was afraid to try to do anything. We didn't want to steam it or do anything. It has the most beautiful tassels, jewel tassels, that are still down on the sides of the dress. It's just magnificent. And there's a handkerchief up here that has lipstick. That was the groom's handkerchief, and it has little shades of lipstick on it. I mean, it's over 100 years old. It's like, have to go and see it. And then there's just 2 other wedding dresses back there. So be sure you at least stop in and take a look at those. And then come back March the 24th for this fashion show, and there'll be a lot of other surprises that day. So Jenna has set up a beautiful table of snacks back there, which some of those you were talking about would be typical sometimes at an event where they just wanted desserts, a
dessert bar
or something. So there's a huge selection. So go back there, and we have drinks. We have sweet. We have peach tea and raspberry lemonade on the table back there. And then one other thing, we'd like to thank David Wallace, who comes to every program, records them, and posts them on YouTube. So if any of your friends say, gee, I wish I'd gone to that program, you can say, go to YouTube, follow Easy Dave. And if you've forgotten that, just go to our page on Facebook. We always try to share his. You have cards. Okay, great. But we appreciate what you do. And Dave goes all over the Crawford and Cherokee County and records just so many events that if you follow him, it's like wonderful what you can learn about the history. And you can just sit there for hours and look at his videos. They are amazing, and we appreciate all that you do. Really, we do. Well, everyone does. You do a great job, really, and we appreciate it. I mean, and you're doing this pro bono also. No one's paying you. This is your own time and money for your equipment and everything. You're not getting paid today, Dave. Sorry. So. Thank you all for coming. We hope to see you again in March. And thank you, Jenna. We appreciate it. It was a great job. And we love, like I said, the exhibit. So help yourself to refreshments.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. It was good.
Wasn't that good?
Yeah,
I mean, really, everybody was so
engaged. I love it.
interactive. I love it.
All right, good afternoon. We're at the Miners Hall Museum in Franklin, Kansas. And we've got Jenna here, and she's going to show us her exhibit. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Jenna Mitchelson, and I am an event planner in the area, and I am showing wedding traditions and hosting over the years from early 1900s to now. Here in our exhibit, we have several things to show on display, so feel free to come check them out. Here are some jewelry from a wedding. This is probably in the 1940s. I believe that's the 1940s. And then we have a men's pocket watch from Bucyrus, Erie. This is he was our guest speaker at our last one, Joe Beecham. It's his pocket watch. And if you look closely on there, you can see like a coal mining drag line on
Very nice.
on the pocket watch. And it
That's
actually,
a very nice one.
yeah, it actually still works too. So you can see it ticking, which is really cool.
Oh, that's nice.
And then
What's this thing here? Well, that's not yours,
no,
is
that's
it?
not mine. That's from the other side. So if you look on that side, you can see it
Well,
better.
they fooled me.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is some wedding rings from the early 1900s. So these are actually Joe's mom's rings. So she had, like here in the green, you see that she has her rings and her rosary are attached. He wears it on a necklace mostly. And there's also a ruby on there. So back then it was less common for them to have diamonds. They either had rubies, sapphires, emeralds, and then just gold bands. Below you can see that there's a lot of crystal and like silver. So typically they had cake and punch, and they served in their best crystal for cake and punch. And then they had little cups. Everything was very elaborate in their own china. There's also, this is from a wedding from the 1950s. These are actually some napkins. They had printed napkins for cocktail hour and for dinner. That you can see music notes, and then their printed names, Imelda and Fred, on there. And then you can see some more silver right in here in this area. More punch bowls and things like these are from the 1940s. Here's a wedding photo. This is from a wedding in 1949. This was Catherine Napodi and Louise.
And this is their sign right here?
Yep,
Tells who they are?
Yep, says who
okay.
they are right in there. So
That's good.
yeah,
All right.
yeah. So there's that. This is a big case. This is full. These are a lot of donated.
Let me get this other wedding
Yeah,
picture
sure.
here.
Oh, yep. There's another one up here. Sorry, I missed that one.
That's all right.
Yeah, so this is a Franklin wedding as well. From you can see like Slovenian immigrants.
Good.
Yeah.
A lot of Slovenians.
Yes, there's a lot. This one's a lot of donated photos from people in the area as well. So I don't necessarily know all these families, but they are from the area. And just wedding photos over the years, you can see pictures of them and their attire, how it really varied, and it was way different back then as like the pantsuits and the skirts for the women, and the men are still pretty traditional in their tuxes. There's a few things that they did accessory-wise different back then.
I don't think you ever heard of pantsuits before World War II, did you?
Nope.
But after they worked in
Nope.
the factories, they were holding them down then.
Yeah, I know. So it's kind of changed as far as that. And then here's some like heirlooms that people had like on their wedding cake topper. A photo for on top. You can actually see it on top of their cake here. That's like when the wedding cake started getting a little bit more elaborate and they started doing tiered.
A little hard to see with the reflection.
Yeah,
That's all right.
sorry, tiered
No,
cakes.
that's all right.
Here's a garter from a wedding, like a wedding garter.
Uh-huh.
Here they have wedding memory books, and then here in the showers, this wedding memory book specifically talks about their shower and the chivalries back then. So like chivalries were the pranks that they pulled on couples after their wedding on their wedding night. Whether they were pushing people down in wheelbarrows down the street, or they were going to bars and making the groom buy them drinks, which was different. And then we have some marriage licenses. So here's a marriage license. This is a early, I'm going to say, 1926. Yep, 1926 wedding. And we do have a 1903 wedding thing coming in the case soon. So you'll have to come check that one out. That's Luella from that owned Chicken Annie's original in the area, her marriage license. This is a wedding invitation, just seeing like how detailed the script was, and like Mr. and Mrs., the parents of the bride and the groom's family giving their daughter or son away. Some more wedding photos and for over the years, and some silver down at the bottom of the case.
Very good.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, we'll transition over here. This is a wedding from early 2000, so like 2003. Gown preservation is a thing. So after a wedding, usually a bride will take it to a gown preservation company, and they preserve the dress in a really pretty display of this sort.
This is nice. Now, what do you call this here?
This is a headband, so it can go on your head. You can attach your veil to it if you would like to, but it's just a piece of, like a headband on there. These are different documentations for weddings, or like the things that, like how much things cost to get done. So like as far as like marriage license, it was $23 or $25, and this was in 2003. That's changed. I think they're more like 80 something now. It's like, I know the prices went up for some. Like if you're getting a copy and then another like a framed one, it's changed some. And then here is, these are some napkins and different things here, and then just photos. Here's a bouquet. Some people do like fake silk florals, or some people will do real. But there's the bouquet. And then here is some stuff from today. I mean, these are older marriage licenses back here, but there's a few pieces for like weddings today. You see that they're a little bit more elaborate, taller, bigger. Like you see gold trending instead of silver. Silver's coming back in, but they're always changing. Here's a place setting. You see the charger plate. A lot of people will mistake this for a plate that you eat on at weddings if you don't have the actual plate on there. So it's funny seeing how many people pick that up, but this is a pretty detailed charger, and then you take your plate to go eat there. And this is one of my favorite. This is an older dress, so
Oh, this is the old one
yes,
Phyllis was talking about.
yes, the old dress Phyllis was talking about. You can see the tassels right here if you want to get close. They are still intact, and then the tiny little beading on the edges of the dress as well. It's here and all the way down to the bottom. It's just this little dainty detail you can kind of see.
Very nice.
Since this dress is so old, they have yellow, like they yellowed and they get colored, which is why you preserve usually, because it keeps your dress from yellowing if you put it in a preservation box. So I know this family didn't necessarily have it in a preservation box, and they were like, they found it and they're like, I think this is it. And they can still yellow a little bit, but they
And
keep
here's
them
nice
from rust.
wedding pictures you have.
Yeah. So here's some photos from the family, some families in the area as well with that. And then here is a bodice of a dress. This was actually my husband's grandma's dress. So the bottom part was made, this was my garter from my wedding. So we used some family heirlooms just to tie into our day for intimate purposes. And the bodice of it was made into garters for my sister and I, and then some ring bear pillows for some cousins. This is Imelda's picture in the paper. They used to give a more detailed description of what the bride was wearing and where they got married. This doesn't necessarily say
the
it.
social page.
Yeah, they had a whole bridal column there. And then here is a photo book from their wedding as well. So like they kind of had more of like Polaroid photos,
Sure.
which was neat. And they kind of had little flip books that they made like this. There's wedding photos from their wedding.
Very nice.
And then here is a whole book full. If you want to come check it out, there's a whole book full of couples throughout the years, like from early 1900s to now.
If they come on over and take a look, they might find someone they know.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for stopping in and checking us out. So,
Thanks for the tour.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Have
Thanks
a
for
good-
putting together the display.
Yes, come see us.